Michelle Smallman. Chris Canty, Evan Cohen with you. We are back from a great trip to Wisconsin. Smalls threw out a first pitch at the Brewers and the Cards game on Friday night. And now back in the studio talking some football and maybe one pitch in baseball from over the weekend. Not baseball overall, but one singular pitch in baseball. Good morning, everybody.
You had one job, Smalls.
We're doing this off the top.
You had one job. No, we're not going to do it off the top.
There's a Super Bowl rematch we need to talk about, guys.
One job, not to embarrass us. And you couldn't. You couldn't do it. You couldn't do it.
Do I have the floor to get into this now?
Okay. You have the floor, please.
A couple things. Number one, I went from the mound. That should earn me some points. That should earn me some respect because I had practiced the distance in front of the mound. So the fact that I went from the mound should earn a little respect from the two of you. No?
It does not, Smalls. We do a sports show every single day. That's table stakes, throwing out the first pitch from the mound. Going in front of the mound on the grass is amateur hour.
Can we not?
You are not an amateur, ma'am. You more so than anybody on this show, you love baseball.
I do, but that doesn't mean I can play.
And to embarrass us and embarrass yourself, your family name out there on enemy territory.
I know that is true.
With the Brew Crew on hand watching you. I'm sorry. That is inexcusable, ma'am.
By the way, for anybody who hadn't seen it.
I can't believe we're showing this on TV. I beg them not to show it.
Lefty pitcher, gray t-shirt, jeans, goes to the mound, does the big leg kick, and it bounces about 3 times prior to it getting to the plate. You may continue.
So another thing that happened is not only did I mess up my game day routine, which is such a rookie move. Any pitcher knows you don't mess with the routine. That's a recipe for disaster. I was getting conflicting advice from a bunch of different people, and I think that got in my head as well.
There's more on this as the show progresses. At UnsportsESPN on Twitter, at UnsportsLike on Instagram. You'll find it. Trust me, it's all over. And you'll also find all of the conversation about the Eagles and the Chiefs. Philadelphia beats Kansas City 20-17. Dating back to last year now, the Kansas City Chiefs have a 3-game losing streak. So many storylines throughout this game, but the game swung on an interception late in the game when down 13-10, the Kansas City Chiefs put together a 14-play, 76-yard drive into the Eagles' hands, and they run it back, not for a touchdown, but they get the ball back there. And if you look back to the start of last season, when targeting Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes has thrown 4 touchdowns and now 5 interceptions. So, CC, their Chiefs are now 0-2. All good? Or are we panicking here a little in Kansas City?
No, I told you it wasn't all good after week 1, and what I saw yesterday only affirmed that. The Kansas City Chiefs got some problems. When Patrick Mahomes is your leading rusher in back-to-back weeks, you have some problems. When you have the longest streak of consecutive games started without having a 3-game losing streak end, you got some problems. And that's where we're at with the Kansas City Chiefs. It's on display for everybody to see. I'm just wondering when the people inside the building are going to realize that as special as Patrick Mahomes is, and as great of a relationship as he has with the play caller / head coach and Andy Reid, that's not going to be enough to overcome the woes when it comes to the personnel around him. I thought the defense, by and large, did a solid job of keeping them in the game. But your offense has got to be able to make some plays, and it can't just be Mahomes. But when you're asking him to do it every single play, of course he's not going to make every single throw. So as great as Mahomes is, I think the lift for him with this Chiefs offense, personnel, the way that it is just too much.
Well, Tom Brady talked about it after the game. To echo your sentiment, CC, he said it's obvious that Patrick Mahomes doesn't trust his protection and he doesn't trust the personnel around him. And if you're the Chiefs, I don't know how you overcome that, how you put him in that position, because we talked about this last year where the defense had to step up. We talked about this last year, how they were lacking an explosive offense, but so much is always put on his shoulders to overcome it. And you have to wonder if we're seeing a little bit of the erosion starting with the Chiefs. And unless they go out there and they fortify this offense of some way, that we are going to see more of this. If the Super Bowl wasn't just an anomaly, but it was a warning sign that the Chiefs can't continue to play the way that they did. So many of their games over the past couple seasons were one-score games. They always found a way to win.
They won 17 in a row of those.
I was just going to say that. 17 in a row of one-score games. They're already 0-2 now in one-score games. So that's why a couple seasons ago I kept saying, I don't know how much longer this is going to last, because it just felt like every single time the ball would bounce their way. Every single time they would eke out these wins, and it didn't feel sustainable. Feel like we are witnessing maybe the beginning of the end.
So if I said to you right now, you had to pick one, what's more likely for the Kansas City Chiefs? They're going to win the Super Bowl this year, they're going to miss the playoffs. Let's work in extremes based on what you've seen in a small sample size.
Miss the playoffs. They started 0-2.
So you don't believe, as constituted, they're going to figure their way out of this? As constituted, as we sit here today.
As constituted, I think that they've dug themselves a deep hole.
CC, same thing for you. As constituted, if we're going to work in massive extremes, this team...
No, not as constituted, right?
So they're not...
Yeah, I think that they'll make a move.
Not as constituted, but I don't anticipate that this team is going to look the same after the trade deadline. They're going to add a piece. They might have to add multiple pieces in order to make the offense what it needs to be. Now, they're going to get
sooner than that.
But they're going to get guys back. They're going to get Rashee Rice back. They're going to eventually get Xavier Worthy back. There's speculation that he could play in Week 3 against the New York Giants. So we'll see what ends up happening. I get where you're coming from in terms of running out of time based on what happens to the division. I don't think the Chargers or the Raiders are going to run away and hide depending on who wins tonight's game, right? You saw the Denver Broncos lose yesterday to the Indianapolis Colts. Just reaffirms to me that kickers aren't football players, they're barely even people. But I just think that because the competition in the AFC West will be so tight, the Kansas City Chiefs will have time to workshop this thing. But if you're saying as constituted, do I think that they'll be able to find a path out of it? I do not, because I am not somebody that believes that X's and O's can overcome all. It's always about the Jessies and Joes. And right now, they ain't got enough of them in order to contend with the upper echelon teams in the conference and in the NFL.
Andy Reid, head coach of the former head coach of the Eagles, head coach of the Chiefs, post-game on what happened and where the responsibility lies.
I'll take full responsibility as we continue to grow.
So the interesting part of this now is people like me, and I have said this, have said, I don't care. Like, they'll be fine. That Tyquan Thornton miss yesterday made me think otherwise for a second. I still think they'll be fine. But that is Mahomes looking so off that it did get me worried yesterday for the first time in God knows how long with this team. And I know they've lost 3 in a row dating back to the Super Bowl last year. And if you look at the 3, twice to the Eagles, and we'll get to the Eagles side of it, because they're awesome even when they're not awesome, right? Even when it's like, hey, that wasn't a perfect game. Like, sign me up for what Jalen Hurts did every day. Like, I'm cool. 100 yards, rushing touchdown. I controlled the game. Tush push, which we'll get into. Dean Blandino on Fox saying, I'm done with that altogether.
That was shocking.
Which is a shocking thing to say. I will say, I'm 1% less confident today than I was on Saturday.
Just one?
What percentage you want to take me to? You want to take me to 10% less? Whatever percentage that is small, but not overwhelming.
Well, the reason I ask is because 1% leads me to believe that you still will give them the benefit of the doubt.
I will.
Figure it out.
Yeah, I will. But you guys did too, because you guys are saying if they change their roster. What the scary thing is, and I think what we just discussed is, maybe we would have thought the changing of the roster comes later in this season. Maybe we don't realize that after the Dolphins fall to 0-3 on Thursday night, which they're going to against the Buffalo Bills, that Brent Veach of the Kansas City Chiefs, their general manager, should be calling the Dolphins for Tyreek Hill on Friday. Not 2 months from now, or a month and a half from now, like immediately. Because this can't continue this way, and the Eagles obviously found a way to win. Here's the other thing. Are you concerned about the Kelsey part of this?
Oh, yeah.
Rough start to the season.
Yeah, you have to be. I mean, Week 1, he knocks out Xavier Worthy, dislocated shoulder. He takes full responsibility for it. Yesterday, he drops a pass in the end zone that ends up leading to an interception, which was the game-changing play for the Philadelphia Eagles. Shout out to Andrew Makuba. I thought he did a phenomenal job. The biggest concern we had for I will say, Travis Kelce aside, is that this tush-push thing, we got to get it under control, man. The offensive line jumping off sides on the tush push makes it an impossible play to stop. It's already impossible to stop. But if the refs aren't going to call false start on the offensive line, if they're going to have a head start on the most unstoppable play in the history of the game, then all of a sudden it takes away from the competitive balance that we expect every single game to have. At some point, it's got to stop. And I don't know how the refs stop it. I don't know if it's the mass of humanity. They can't tell who's moving first. They can't see the ball because everybody's crouched down in there. I don't know what they have to do. If it's the sky judge and replay assist, I don't know what has to happen. But it's clear that what happened on the goal line with less than 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter changed the game. And the refs missed several false starts. They missed it on third down. They missed it on a touchdown on fourth down. That is absolutely egregious. The NFL should be ashamed of itself. I get it's a legal play. I'm not trying to litigate whether or not the play belongs in football because the NFL decided that it's okay. What I will say is missing back-to-back false starts on said play is egregious. And it could have cost the Chiefs the game.
More on that, obviously. We will go one-liners coming up. We'll give you one take on every game from the NFL weekend, plus one game in baseball on Friday.